It was the third date, the second Chardonnay, the first time Kevin knew he would get Katie between the sheets. He had guided the conversation to a series of topics related to her flat. Photos, home movies, interior design, and cleanliness. He was pleased with his strategy. It was a sure thing now, and he was excited. He thought he might burst. When she left to powder her nose, he carefully settled the bill, without even glancing at the total. His eyes were fixed on the restaurant door. When she returned, she stroked his inner wrist, forcing his voice to come out like a prepubescent squeak. "Coffee?" he asked. "I know a great place that..." She held her finger to his lips. "I have great coffee at my place." He placed his jacket over her bare shoulders, and her arm looped his. He thought he was charming, but he was getting nervous. His sentences took forever to form, as if he needed to search for every word in a massive dictionary with tiny hands. Luckily, Katie thought he was hilarious and said that if she laughed anymore, she'd wet herself right there in the street. He started kissing her after she showed him her Stanley Kubrick box set. He marched her backwards to the bedroom. He told her she was beautiful. She told him she loved his shoe and sock combination. He rolled her onto the bed and feverishly began removing her clothes, garment by garment, punctuated with quick kisses. Kevin's look came to a swift halt when her underwear did not come off as they should. The fabric was blocked by her stubborn buttocks that stayed firmly on the mattress. He tried again with a playful giggle, but yet the buttocks did not rise. His blood ran cold. She smiled, brought her hand around his neck and leaned in for a whisper. "Let's take things slowly," she said. She patted his face next to him and he lay down like a coiled spring of tension. "I like you, Kevin. You're sweet and romantic, but..." She paused, unsure whether to deliver the next caveat. "Want to be friends?" he asked fearfully. Katie pinched his arm. She explained, unashamedly, that this was her first time, and she wanted her first time to be special. She had a strong feeling that Kevin was the right guy for this special moment. She just didn't know when this special moment would happen. "Is this a religious thing?" he asked as coolly as he could. "No," she laughed. "No, not at all, absolutely not. I'm just romantic, I suppose, and I'd hate to think that you liked me, just for that." "No, absolutely not," declared Kevin. "I like you." He meant it. She drifted off to sleep on his breathless chest. Kevin stared wide-eyed at the ceiling. How could he make it special? He brought her flowers to work the next week, cooked her salmon every Friday, and when she twisted her ankle, he appeared with ice, as if he had known it would happen. They hugged in front of the TV, and Kevin stroked her inner thigh to no effect. He was getting more frustrated. He asked her how he could make it special. She said it was a feeling, and when it came, he would know. "I have an idea." Kevin jumped up one day. He fetched the glove that she kept on her bookshelf, and they spun it until it was a blur. "Wherever you stop it, we go." Her finger stopped on China. They went there that Easter. A traditional hotel with a view of the Great Wall. After a day of being on the wooden rafts, eating soft rice from porcelain bowls, they dressed in local silken attire and returned to the bed. The gorgeous blood-red paper wafted around the room as they jumped about making kung fu movie sounds. Kevin tried a Shaolin underwear removal grab, but her red silk did not budge. The next month, he asked Katie to to throw a dart at a map. It landed on Antarctica. Are you sure? She asked. Yeah, absolutely. Romance is about being adventurous, he said. They wrapped up warm and stayed in a high-tech tent. They saw icebergs collapse and the sun set over a field of white powder. He lit 5 gas stoves and carefully peeled off her dozen 30 tog layers. But when Kevin's hand reached lower, she held his shivering wrist and shook her head. They typed a random postal code into Google Maps. That summer, they were in Manila, walking through exotic streets. They were soon mugged by a ratty man at gunpoint. Kevin threw himself on the thug, knocking the gun to the ground and breaking his own arm in the process. A knife was pulled and a long, thin line drawn across Kevin's face. They ran away and, after some plastic surgery, Kevin lay in bed. Katie looked at him sympathetically and clambered in, removing his sling. Kevin breathed a sigh of relief. It was finally happening. She put her head on his chest and said, "Oh, these beds are so good for snuggling." Kevin and Katie's air miles grew. They were the envy of their friends. They thought he was the most romantic boyfriend a girl could have. The cupboard doors, bookshelves and tables were covered in photos. Trinkets and souvenirs were everywhere from wherever Kevin took her. Yet still, the underwear stayed firmly in place and the buttocks did not rise. In December, Kevin opened Katie's door with his own key and found she wasn't there. He'd been working late at the supermarket to pay off his credit card. A note was on the side. Katie had headed out with some friends and she'd see him in the morning. He sulked a little bit in his nylon uniform. When he rang her, she didn't answer, so he went to get some cool wine from the fridge. The door was covered in fridge magnets. Niagara Falls, the Eiffel Tower, a German beer festival, the ruins of Angkor Wat. The Northern Lights had looked better in person, but he was pleased with his grainy photo. He awoke on the sofa to Katie in tears. "What's wrong, my pumpkin?" he asked. She shook her head. "Something happened last night," she said. I was out with the girls and Eddie showed up and we..." Kevin held a finger to her lip. "Eddie?" he asked. "The guy from work?" She nodded her head, her cheeks wet. Kevin had heard enough. "I think I'll leave now," he said. Katie protested, but he was too angry. "These all should belong to me," he said, in a rage, pulling down all the photos. "It didn't mean anything," she said. He thrust on his pointy hat from Vietnam, picked up his panpipes from Peru, and stuffed the Egyptian goat skin with snow globes and keyrings. "I'm so sorry, we can work this out." But Kevin had already stepped outside. He gave her a final kiss, brought his hand around her neck and whispered in her ear, "It's supposed to be my first time too."